Why did you have to run off to your racetrack? Ray Carter told me something interesting, I put to him. He says you got a wire from somebody and rushed out, leaving him mid-trim. For the first time, I saw Stable frown. Well, business and pleasure sometimes mix, Miss Malone. Yes, I was telephoned for a maintenance issue, but that's now all sorted. Right, okay. Well, Green died last night. I told him that Connor Green was found near the Tin Spoon, the coroner reporting his time of death around midnight. That is a late hour, Stable said. Miss Malone, I am always fast asleep in my bed at that time of the night. So nobody was there with you? No, I was alone. In response to my raised eyebrow, he continued, I've never lied to you, Miss Malone. Of course, it would be just as difficult for you to disprove my story as it would be for me to prove it. And we live in a civilized nation that requires your proof. Not mine. Yeah, but you don't have an alibi, mate. That's the thing. I know, yeah, the golden pillar of justice is innocent until proven guilty, and it is the prosecution's job to prove the guilt, but you're a major suspect, and you don't have an alibi. I mean, it's very difficult to disprove he was on his own. It's looking at it, you've got Ella Smith, who was singing at the time. You've got Fanny Green, who can't really have left the Tin Spoon or gone back into the Tin Spoon. So she's kind of clear. Carter was gambling, Paul was gambling. Unless we find another person, this guy is the only person who has the means. He has the opportunity, sorry. The gun is at his racetrack, which points to the fact that it's probably his, until we get more of an idea. So he's got the means. I can't remember what his motive would be, sadly. We live in a civilized nation that requires your proof, not mine. Sable might have had the opportunity to kill Green, but I have to first place him concretely. I assure you, I was at home asleep at the time. I can't contradict that off the top of my head. I let the statement slide, at least for now. That's the thing, is you find close to the Tin Spoon. Yeah, so I already asked him about the whatever. Oakland past is a lie. Let's see if I asked. Did you know that Green is lying about his Oakland past? Stable raises eyebrows. Well, you're volunteering quite interesting information. I didn't know that, but I thank you for it. I don't want to accuse him. I don't want to necessarily accuse him at the moment, but he's the only one who seems to have means and opportunity, and I assume motivation. Because Paul, I think, was in the Tin Spoon. Ella was singing. Fanny Green couldn't have left. Ray Carter was there. Stable is the only one currently who has the opportunity. He has a gun of the type. Well, it is in his bin. This is one of the moments I'd like to go to the police station and try and get it checked for fingerprints, because I assume that's the thing that's done in the 20s. Which then gives me an idea of who shot it, although that might make the game a little easy. So they might not let you do it, especially considering I'm an innocent bystander, technically, although I'm a private eye. Leave him be for the moment. Turnstiles. I'd first snuck into the racetrack by jumping the locked turnstile, which had been easy enough. I could leave the same way. Empty boxes thrown next to the old betting house. I spent some time rummaging through them, but found nothing. Wooden slats bordered the window to the old betting house. The Walker Otis measure of 1909 prohibited gambling on horses, which meant most racetracks shuttered, including the Tanfran. But Stable and a few other investors reopened the track the previous year, claiming to operate without taking bets. Yeah, because people are just turning up to watch. Although that's probably a very good way to do it, is you charge people tickets to come and see it, and if there happens to be a small group outside of the racetrack who happen to put bets on, and so that they can you've built a little office block and they happen to be paying you rent for that office block, it's not your problem. let's head out again. Let's go to Tiny Paul's apartment. He's Carter's. No, not Carter. Stable is currently. Oh, stable with horses. Oh, sorry. He was still not going to make it. I just had the sudden panic that maybe my audio was being recorded. We'll find out. We'll find out. I stepped into the taxi and rocked into a comfortable position on the back seat. I thought about starting a chat. I did. I asked him about his shift and how much longer he'd been driving. Not all my conversations with cab drivers were memorable. Paul's building was still new, built only a few years earlier, but it was already a beacon of Pacific Heights, tall and proud above its surroundings. Its crisp vanilla interior was accented with gold, and its lift was run by an equally immaculate operator. I rode it to the top floor bungalow that belonged to Tiny Paul. Let's try not to wake him for the moment. A hat hung from the rack nailed to the back wall, as did an empty gun holster. And we found a gun. Paul's light brown shoes were discarded beside the couch he lay on. A wrapped bouquet of flowers lay on the table. They were vibrant yellow. They reminded me of flowers I'd seen earlier, but I couldn't place them at the moment. Potting plant was on the furthest side from the door. I could never keep plants alive either. Even as the petals fell, they were still a vibrant yellow. Oh, hang on. No, these are ones. Oh no, these are ones that I'd seen earlier. I could know. Has that been added because I've said that, or there are some ones other? I'm horribly confused now. The couch and chairs had patterned, olive-coloured cushions. Their arms and legs were a gaudy shade of gold, matching the gold of the table. Tiny Paul was sprawled across his Chesterfield, smelling of rubbing alcohol. I said hello. It took a century, but his eyes eventually climbed to meet mine, and he slurred a greeting. I figured a drunk Tiny Paul could be more honest. I thought it was a good time to grill him. Be careful. With the amount of alcohol he's had, he might catch fire. Green died at midnight. Shipman had told me that Connor Green had died. Yeah. Green was killed around midnight. Do you remember anything from then? After the jazz stopped playing at 10, I went up to the pool room to shoot. I think the whole band came in. We played cards until early in the morning. You were in the Tin Spoon all night? From after 10. Though I did leave before then. I met with Redstone Stable at 9, then around 5 in the morning. It seemed like he hadn't slept much. Redstone Stable. You met with the stable? I asked. Why? I ain't telling you that, sister. Why should I believe you at all? Believe what you want. I was in the pool hall when Green was shot. I was in the... I suspect, basically, the thing is, he thought there was something dodgy going on, chatted with Stable, who was also a bootlegger, despite what he says. And, yeah. I didn't challenge him on that point. Let's ask about your... where's your... the holster, the empty holster. Point to the empty holster. That strap just holds your slingshot. Paul's deep breath carried more booze than a bootlegger's truck. Alright, Malone. I do carry a gun, but you're barking at the wrong tree. Lay off if you know what's good for you. You don't even know what my gun looks like. Does it look like this gun? I described the gun I'd found and how it matched the type gangsters were known to carry. I don't see a gun around here, I ended. His jaw stiffened. Keep my gun in that holster. And when I'm not at home, that holster stays on my person or in my jacket. So where is it now, Paul? What if I told you I lost it yesterday? How could you disprove it? A weak story, Paul. Weak or not, it's what I'm telling you. What are you just going to do? What are you going to do about it? Thought of accusing him? No, he doesn't have the opportunity. Just asking questions. I said to him, a detective has to cover all her leads. Paul took a heavy sigh, but in a strength state, he didn't do much more. I don't want to just jump and be like, I need to go and talk to Stable again. But it does seem like more and more he seems to have the means. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tiny Paul gave Stable his gun to use. Someone close could snag his gun. Actually, most Tin Spoon patrons had guns, so you can ask about that. Ella Smith tells me that most of your regulars pack heat. If you'd like to put me on the stand for crimes my patrons commit, I don't think I'd have any chance of beating the rap, but I can control what my guests do, Malone. No, you don't. He was killed with a 45. I told Paul that Green was killed with a large automatic. What's our country coming to? So many people owning firearms. Tisk, tisk. I'll just go. I think we'll go back to stable. Just kind of run backwards and forwards a little bit while I'm figuring out exactly what I want to ask people. I mean, I know I want to ask him about the fact that Tony Paul's just said you didn't look like you'd slept. Right. I shall talk. When the driver turned to ask where I wanted to go, I saw his striking blue eyes looked years younger than the greying temples beneath his wool cap. I was curious about his history. I struck up a conversation, which led to his past life. Ever hear of the Suicide Club? I admitted I hadn't. Bob the Goat coined that phrase. Poor guy ate a runway for his last meal. War pilots asked? Half right. We was mail carriers. Uncle Sam was training us for the military. Shame so few made it. I asked about the deaths. Rumours said the average pilot lasted 900 hours. Likely not far off. Flying with no light, no emergency landing, barely a weather report, never a parachute. What did they expect? Glad you're driving a taxi cab now? My wife is, but I miss flying every day. He turned to tip his cap, and I saw the sparkle in his eyes. I thanked him for the ride and left the car. Mr. Stable. Mr. Stable. Tiny Paul. He said you hadn't slept all night. Tiny Paul tells me that you two met last night. And then you met again early in the morning. Not much sleep then. Very well, Stable sighed. I do admit I spent yesterday searching for information on this case, and that perhaps the search bled into the morning. In my situation, would you not also look for clues against Green, a man who had accused you of blackmail? I must have beamed at him, armed now with the knowledge that Stable had no alibi the previous night. However, in my search to clear my name, I did find a fact that might interest you. A fact that I had kept to myself, but if Paul wishes to lay claims at my feet, I might as well tell you. The Tin Spoon has a back exit. Patrons likely have no suspicion of it, but I'm certain many of the staff know. They could get entry and leave without anyone noticing. And how do you know this? I asked. Never mind how I came about the information. Just be thankful I'm giving it to you. If you do not believe me, I encourage you to ask others about it. This was a peculiar development. I noted it and continued my questioning. Right, okay. So that means that Green's alibi is gone. Right. Ella Smith doesn't have... Ella Smith has an alibi. Carter has an alibi. Tiny Paul has an alibi. So it's basically Stable or Green. We know they both have the opportunity, and they kind of both have the motivation. Like, neither of them have an alibi at this point. Yeah, neither of them have an alibi at this point. So they've both got opportunity to do it. When it comes to motivation, jealousy and bootlegging, so they both have that. So it's all down to the means, I would say, between these two. Okay, is there anything else I want to ask you? The gun. Let's actually ask about that. I found an automatic in your trash. A 45. That's a gangster caliber. What are the chances it's the same one that killed Green? Stable frowned again. I was beginning to like his frowns. So it seems to me that your boys found the murder weapon in the trash, then called you around to see what to do about it. Yes, he admitted. I was telephoned to look at the weapon. We were about to phone the police about it when I noticed you wandering the grounds. Why were you so interested in the Green case? And why is the gun here? He sighed. Do you remember, Miss Malone, that Connor Green had already attempted to frame me? Once I learned of his death, I thought that whomever had killed him would also try to blame me. I invited Carter for a trim in exchange for information about the murder, and I told my associates to watch for anything suspicious at the racetrack. As soon as the gun was found, they telephoned me, and, well, here we are. So you still won't admit to the murder? Think what you want, Miss Malone, but I had no reason to kill Connor Green. And if you think otherwise, you're just playing into the game set up by the real killer. And that was the story that Stable was sticking with. Still, I was much further along than I had been, and that gave me reason to smile. Let's head out again. I think the only new bit of information is the fact it's got a back door. Let's head to the Tin Spoon, because that might give me some more information here as well. I might then be able to go through it and get some extra bit of evidence. Potentially. I hailed the driver and talked to him. We talked about politics, but I don't remember exactly what about. Not all my conversations with cab drivers are memorable. I get the feeling I've kind of exhausted all of the cab driver conversations. Hello. Ask about our notes. Where are you? Oh, you're up here. No. Tin Spoon is a back exit. I have a source that says that there's a back exit at the Tin Spoon. What do you know about this? Yes, we do. It's behind the women's changing rooms. I can't imagine any of the men would know about it. They'd never be able to get back there without causing a riot. But the girls use it whenever we need to slip away from customers who are too eager. So, right, there's a back exit to the Tin Spoon that only the women know about? That's right. Turn back to the room. Okay. I thought about heading back down to the dark streets. To the greenhouse! So, we have now got a back exit that kind of blows a bit of a hole, because the guard wouldn't know about it then. So that would mean that he wouldn't be checking it. I flagged a taxi cab, thought about chatting with the driver to pass the time. You hear the latest about Shoeless Joe? He asked. He gave an interview with Milwaukee, still saying he's innocent. What a racket. Shoeless Joe Jackson was one of baseball's all-time greatest players, but in 1919 he was part of the White Sox team that had been accused of intentionally losing the World Series, fixing the match for East Coast gamblers like Arnold Rothstein. The scandal's magnitude was so enormous that every American was gripped by reports in the newspapers, whether they were fans of baseball or not. Although the team had been acquitted in a public trial, Baseball Insider still claimed the fix had been real. 8 White Sox players, including Shoeless Joe, were forever banned by the league. Throughout the ordeal, Joe had maintained his innocence, and he was suing his former team for back pay that he hadn't received after being banned. Most baseball fans preferred to think of themselves as insiders, and since insiders thought Shoeless Joe was guilty, so did they. A lawsuit starts in a few days, the driver rambled on. Can't believe the guy on this one. Thinks he can ruin a sport, profit from it, then sue the league? Why, I hope one of the lawyers socks him in the jaw. His rambling continued as we rolled to a stop. I left the taxi cab and wasn't sure if the driver had even noticed.